Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I thought I would look at the history of anime and why I think anime is worth your time. Now I know a lot of people hear the word anime and they automatically think of weird porn and like creepy octopus shit. That's not the kind of anime I'm talking about in today's video. Anime is a form of entertainment produced in Japan. It's basically Japanese for animation, and it's something that I've got into watching since the pandemic started. I had a lot of free time, like we all did during the lockdown, so I started watching it just to see if it was something that was worth my time. And after watching a few hundred hours worth at this stage, I can now confidently say that I have the knowledge that I think I need to tell you guys why anime is worth your time. In 2016, anime was one of the biggest industries in animation industry across the world. It made up 60% of all animations being produced, not just in Japan, but everywhere. It all began in the early 1900s when anime was created using cut-out animation before cell animation became the dominant force along with computer-generated graphics. They were very simplistic, there was no audio, there was no colour. By the 1930s, one of the great things for anime was it was being used to produce propaganda by the Japanese government. Now the reason I say it's a good thing for anime was that these animators were being paid to produce content, which meant they could hone their craft and their skill, which is something that they wouldn't have been able to do if they were just making it themselves, because nobody was watching it. They didn't have the medium to share it with anyone in Japan, let alone the world. So at least they were able to hone their craft and be paid to do it. But it wouldn't be until after the Second World War in 1948 that the first production company by the name of Toei was created with the ultimate goal of creating content just for entertainment. Now this wasn't something that had been done before, this was a new medium, and it was an exciting time for the company, but it would not be an easy road for them. Unfortunately, during this time, as we all know, Disney was a dominant force, both culturally and in entertainment across the world. So a lot of people in Japan would have consumed a lot of their animation through Disney. But it wouldn't really be until the 1960s, when TV became this dominant medium in society during that time, that anime really got a chance to kind of shine and really show what it was about. And the said production company, Toei, did release a TV show by the name of Tetsujin 28 Go. Now I apologise if I'm butchering that, I probably am. And it was also the first time that anime would use manga comics as a writing source to tell their stories, which today is a very dominant part of anime. Most anime you watch today is basically from a manga. So in the 60s, the problem with the TV medium becoming so popular was that there was more than just anime available to the audiences. They also had live action TV shows as well as movies, which became hugely popular in the 60s. There was a boom of that as well as in the 70s. So because of that boom, because there was increased competition, this forced animators to really kind of practice with different types of styles and experiments, things that they couldn't do before or hadn't thought of before, because of this pressure they felt to kind of really stand out. And a lot of these new styles that they created in the 70s are still used to this day. In the 1980s then we saw a boom of production companies coming out the gate in Japan, which is actually, I would argue, a very good thing for anime, because it forced all these different production companies to kind of up their skill, because they're in competition with each other to try and get their hand up to basically say, watch my anime. This would have meant there would have been low budgets but a lot of skilled workers that worked hard countless hours to really put in the detail and effort and really add to the story to really make them stand out, and it improved the overall quality of anime. In the 80s then we saw a boom in TV with VHS. VHS was created. This allowed animators to create their own original video content called OAV, which is original animation video. These were straight-to-video produced content that allowed consumers to purchase these items and rewatch them. It also was the time when renting videos became a thing, so there was this need to fill this big market. So of course the 90s and the 2000s brought about streaming services, DVD services that we have to this day. Like Netflix, Japan uses a very popular service called Crunchyroll, which, like Netflix, it gives you access to thousands, hundreds of thousands of animes at this stage of the game. I think it's only fair to talk about some of the negatives before we talk about the positives. And there is a few tropes in anime, that some of which are very similar to content made in the West, but also tropes that I think should be mentioned in fairness, to give you a clear idea of why it's good and bad. And there's certain stereotypes that I would address as well. Now, like any produce content in the world. One of the biggest problems with the season arcs that require, say, 22 episodes a season is that they don't have enough time to really animate everything perfectly. So one of the things that they do is they put in these little filler episodes to give them more time to work on the more complicated scenes in their episodes, and also to fill the quota. Now, the problem with this is these filler episodes don't really add anything to the character development. It doesn't add anything to the overall season arc. In fact, you could skip these episodes and they wouldn't affect the actual overall story. And to be fair to anime, this is not just an anime, trope. This is something that is done in animation in the West as well as live action, etc. And it's something that always bothered me when I'm watching this kind of content. I don't want filler episodes, especially if you're binging a series. Every main protagonist in anime seems to be like a 15-year-old kid. And one of the issues I have with this is that obviously I'm not 15, so the target audience obviously isn't probably someone as old as me, perhaps. But the thing about it is that's very frustrating is like there's very adult themes in it, in the sense of like the responsibility, like they have to save the world and they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they're dealing with all these complex emotions and they're reacting to things in a way that only an experienced person would react to, someone that's been around long enough to know how to deal with certain situations. The biggest trope I have in animation is the female characters. Now, to be fair, in more recent years, from what I've seen in the newer animations that I've watched in anime, a lot of the female characters are stronger and they do actually have an important role to play in these shows. But there's some shows that I've watched that are a bit older where there's kind of two issues with it. One is that the female characters are completely overly sexualized, especially when these characters are supposed to be quite young at times. That part I don't like, and it does bother me. They always seem to have these huge tits, tiny waists, big asses, and it's I feel for any kind of young woman or any sort of woman watching it, because it creates these body image issues that aren't realistic, and a lot of the time these female characters are just there to make men look better, which I don't agree with, and they're kind of seen as just like either loved up or stupid, or they just add conflict that's not necessary. I think the reason for that is because anime's audience is very male dominant, so I think they're trying to get as many teenagers and people full of testosterone to watch these shows, to hold their attention because they see a drawing of big boobs. It's kind of strange, and I think that's one thing that puts a lot of people off anime, which is understandable. Okay, now it's time to talk about the good things about anime. Why is it worth your time? Why should you watch it? And thankfully, I've made a list of reasons here as to why it is. So let's get stuck into it, and hopefully by the end of this you will see that it was worth your time. One of the great things about anime, which surprised me as someone starting out watching it, was the comedic element of it. And the way they do it is actually quite a common thread across all sorts of anime that I've watched in my time anyway, which is they kind of simplify the drawing of the characters and they over-expressionalize their faces, and the contrast between the two really kind of adds to that comedic effect. And usually it happens in a kind of a serious moment where there's levity is needed, and it really kind of, I think, the mockery of the moment, like mocking another character in a scene, is really emphasized when they draw the characters a lot more simplicity. They don't show as much features on the face, and it has this really kind of funny comedic element to it. But it also shows that like the animators have a sense of humor, and I think with any story, especially in anime, which can be very heavy at times, like levity is very much essential, but it's not overused, it's not abused. It's used in the right way at the right times, and they've really mastered that skill set in it. And it was something I was really surprised by in anime, because it wasn't something that I was expecting, because my kind of vision of anime was always very serious and like very sexualized, which it's actually a lot funnier than it is any of those things, and it's very effective, and it's very interesting, and it makes the overall viewing of it very much more enjoyable. One of the main reasons I think you should watch anime is simply because it's just visually stunning, and one of the great things about it is like it is clear that the animators understand filmmaking and cinematography and use of lighting, and as someone like myself that has studied these things, it's something that stands out to me immediately when I watch these shows. The camera work is beautifully compositioned, The color grading is very much immense and really vibrant at times, and it's used in a way to emphasize as a tool to like improve the elements of the story, like framing and composition and lighting and use of shadows and character design. They're all super important to as tools to kind of enhance the story that you're telling. And it's clear that the animators understand this, and it's clear that they spend a lot of time and effort thinking about how to frame and composition a shot, how to use lighting in a certain way to enhance a certain mood or tone they're going for, or they might use certain color grading for certain characters to emphasize a certain type of character that a character is. Like, I could go on and on and on about the framing, and I could go on and on about the composition, and these people clearly understand how things need to be shot, and they know how to use the tools that they have. And the great thing about anime and about animation in general, they clearly are people that really enjoy storytelling and enjoy using all the elements needed to increase the overall quality and make the story better. So that was one of the most kind of the biggest thing for me watching anime, was just how amazingly visually stunning it is. So that is one of the biggest reasons I think you should watch anime. That alone should be enough. If you love filmmaking and if you love storytelling, like, this is something you should take the time to watch. Another thing I like about anime is that it's very wholesome, and the idea of friendship is such a huge theme throughout all of anime. Like, everything I've watched, it's been about, you have your main protagonist who has these goals he needs to achieve, but he can't achieve them without his friends. And it's something that's highlighted in the various amounts of animes I've watched, whether it be Hunter x Hunter, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan. One thing that's emphasized is that the main characters cannot achieve what they want to achieve without the help of their friends. And the characters care about their friends. They care about them both psychologically and emotionally. They're there for them. It shows to us as a society how important friendship is, and how underrated friendship is, and how much we need friendship. One thing I really like about it is now, some people would say this is a slight trope, which I would agree with, is the villain motivations tend to be very similar, and the backstory tends to be similar. But the thing I like about the villains in anime is that although their objectives are very cliche and broad, they are humanized a lot of the time. You do get some background information, you do learn about the character, and you learn why the character is the way he is. You mightn't agree with the antagonist, and you might think what he's doing is evil as you watch these shows, but you do understand the character, and you do feel for the character, and it's clearly made out to the audience that this character is broken because of trauma or because of something that's happened. It shows that everything is black and white in life, and it shows that there is a lot of reasons why people become certain ways, and to kind of just have someone that's just evil, anything that's just pure black and white like that is just lazy storytelling to me. So a lot of these characters, they do have a lot of depth, and they do have a lot of information that is told to us that really kind of makes you kind of sympathize with characters that do evil things on these shows. So, and some people will say it's a trope because it's across the board, but I think any good storyteller will tell you that you need to when you're displaying a villain, you need to show that this villain isn't black and white. You need to show why he is the way he is. You need to make him look human to understand him. And although you mightn't agree with his actions, you can still empathize. And I think anime does that very, very well. Final reason I want to talk about as to why anime is as great, surprisingly great as it is the quality of the voice acting. Now, me personally, I don't have anything against people that like watching this, the dubbed English, but I find the English dubbed acting pretty atrocious, and it really takes away from the scene. If you can, I would recommend just sitting down and getting used to watching on the subtitles. One of the great things about anime is that the actors that do the voices for these shows, it's clear that they have a passion for it. It's clear that they give it their all. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of effort put in, and it really, really adds to the scenes. You could have really well written scenes, but if the acting isn't there, it could really fall apart. So one of the great things about anime, and one of the things that you'll notice if you watch enough of them, is that they use the same voice actors across the board, but it's actually okay because the voice acting is so superbly done. The emotion is there, the raw pain is there. Like, these actors are really able to emote just through their voice, kind of, which is a difficult thing to do, the emotion and the mental state that their character is in. And it really, really adds to the scene. And that's why I think if you're going to watch anime, it's crucial that you try to watch it with the original source language. if you're going to spend the time watching it, if you can, I would recommend watching it with the subtitles. So what do you guys think? Have I convinced you? Are you going to give it a chance? Let me know what you think of whatever shows you watch. Thanks so much everyone that, as always, that likes and shares and subscribes to my channel. Please do like and share, it means a lot. And subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. People that have been watching my YouTube channel know that I kind of make a bit of everything. There's no real set thing here. I just talk about things that are interesting to me. But yeah, give anime a chance. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next episode. Peace out.